Today's session will be led by Denise Bexon and Erica Sheffer. Ms. Bexon serves as a Senior Executive Officer with the Maury Organization, doing business as Maury Peers in the Wildwood, New Jersey. In this capacity, she oversees the corporation's Human Resource Division and Government Relations. She has spent 30 years in the amusement theme park industry, dedicating much of her career to Maury's Piers. She worked her first summer at Maury's Piers in water park admissions at the age of 14. Some years later, but still driven by her core commitment to excellence, she serves as an executive-level member of the management team responsible for business operations. Denise is actively and passionately involved in the industry at large and has served on the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions Board of Directors. She has served on numerous at-large strategic and board committees. She is a senior associate for Ellison Associates and serves as the director of our International Aquatic Safety School. Denise is also a member of the New Jersey Association Board of Directors and the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association Board of Directors. Denise frequently shares her expertise as a speaker at industry conferences throughout the country and internationally. Denise is an IAPA certified attractions executive and was previously honored with IAPA's Meritorious Service Award in recognition for her individual service to and for the association by advancing the IAPA mission. Erica Sheffer, Director of Advocacy, the IAPA North American Government Relations. Erica joined IAPA, the Global Association for the Attractions Industry, in 2017. Erica is a seasoned government affairs professional with extensive experience in issue advocacy. With strong ties to the government officials and a wealth of issue experience, Erica strengthens IAPA's North America Government Affairs program by helping members work with elected officials and regulatory agencies on executive, legislative, and regulatory issues that impact the attractions industry. She also leads outreach to multi-state policy groups and political organizations that government leaders rely on to advance IAPA government affairs priorities. Erica is currently the secretary of the Washington State Area Relations Group, serves on the board of directors of the State Government Affairs Council, and is member of the State Relations Task Force for Women in Government Relations. Erica earned a Master of Public Policy and Bachelor of Arts in Government and International Affairs from George Mason University. A Central Pennsylvania native, Erica and her husband Wes currently reside in Vienna, Virginia. Denise and Erica, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Bexon, Vice President with Maury's Piers in Wildwood, New Jersey. It's a pleasure to be here today to speak to you about something I'm really passionate about, government relations. And I'm really happy to be joined by my colleague in crime, Erica Sheffer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erica Sheffer. I am the Director of North American Advocacy here at IAPA, and I'm happy to be here today.
IAPA is such a valuable resource to the amusement industry. One of the most valuable functions of IAPA is their advocacy at both the state and federal level. Erica Sheffer heads up the advocacy department, as she said, and I work with her as chair of IAPA's Global and North American Government Affairs Committee. We thought we'd take you through an overview of IAPA's U.S. government affairs, a 2020 recap, and a look into our crystal ball for what 2021 may bring. If you're thinking this doesn't apply to me or this isn't part of my current job duties, I would challenge that thought. Listen, keep an open mind, because everything we're about to discuss impacts you directly. Your employer, your job. Advocacy works really well at the grassroots level, and being educated and informed can help you communicate better in your workplace and in your community. And who knows, at the end of the session, maybe you'll be inspired to get more involved.
I go to U.S. Advocacy Days every year on Capitol Hill, and I find it to be really valuable. You get to meet directly with your elected officials. You get to meet with folks that are running agencies that are making regulation that impact our business.
I've been going for several years now, and now when I go and see my representatives from Kentucky, they know me by name. They know where I'm from and what's going on, and asking me what's new in the industry and what can they help us with. It's important for them to see us and us to see them, and then you get that one-on-one relationship with them.
It's so important to have your voice heard on the Hill so they understand how what they're doing impacts your daily operation.
Coming to Advocacy Days is extremely important for our members because without their voices, nothing will get done.
Your participation in Advocacy Day is vital.
Go to Washington, D.C., be with your colleagues, and have a chance to really engage in the process because we're always better together.
Because our industry matters to every single member of IAPA, and this is our opportunity to make our voice heard.
If you don't make your voice heard, then you're not making an impact.
It's a fabulous opportunity to walk the halls of government and tell our story and make a presence known. We've got a great story to tell.
You don't have opportunities like this all the time, and this is one I highly recommend. As someone who's gone several times, each time has been different and each time has made a difference.
There is something very important and moving about being at our center of government.
Nothing's better than sitting down across a table from somebody and explaining why an issue is important and the impact that that issue has on us as business people and on our guests that we serve.
There's nothing more powerful than a constituent speaking to their member of Congress.
Our members in Washington, they want to hear from us. We just have to show up.
A lot of great things have happened at events like Advocacy Days every year just by getting to know the people that you're there with, all working to our common goal, but also to have a little fun.
We bring the smile, we bring the fun, so it's a great time for everybody.
Without you all, nothing gets done. I mean, your voices mean so much to us, and it really means a lot that you take the time and effort to come to Washington, D.C.
Erica, let's start with a brief overview of the role of government affairs within IAPA. Can you describe its purpose and what you do?
I'd love to. IAPA Government Affairs covers a multitude of functions. First and foremost, we serve as a unified voice for the attractions industry. We're able to impact state and federal legislation, regulation, and public policy by using our subject matter expertise to educate and inform policymakers on our industry's priority issues. We're also able to provide a platform for our members to participate directly in the democratic process. And let me be clear, the most effective advocacy campaigns do in fact involve you and require an active and engaged membership. I like to remind everyone that politicians are not celebrities, they are not VIPs, and they are oftentimes not subject matter experts in our fields. They are public servants and they work for us, their constituencies. IAPA's role as a subject matter expert on the attractions industry relies heavily on you, our members. You guys are absolutely subject matter experts in your fields. Like I said, the politicians are not. And they rely on our collective expertise to make informed decisions on our policy issues. So the more involved you are, the better the outcome for the industry. Denise, I believe you were the director of water park operations at Maury's right around the time you became heavily involved in IAPA's government affairs program. Can you talk a little bit about your involvement?
Absolutely. Yes, I was working in the water park when I first got involved. So case in point, you don't have to be the CEO of your organization to be involved in government relations. I don't recall all of the exact details about how and when I began to advocate, but I can tell you this, I do not have a political background. I didn't study it in college. I didn't have any previous experience, but an early exposure came for me when IAPA hosted an advocacy event in Washington, D.C., and they invited members from other IAPA committees to attend. I was involved with the Water Park Committee, and this was right around the time of the Virginia Graham-Baker Act. So I decided it would be beneficial to attend, and that was really an eye-opening moment for me. At that event, I realized how important it is to be on the front lines, so to speak, of legislation. I quickly came to the realization building relationships with your elected officials is invaluable, and it needs to be a priority before you have a major issue you need to educate them on. You need to know who to call, and better yet, you need them to know you when you call. This can seem intimidating at first, like Erica was mentioning, I remember being nervous talking to elected officials and even their staffers. I recall being in awe as I walked the halls of Congress. But I now know that advocacy really isn't that difficult. You just have to be you and maybe put on a suit. You're speaking to representatives. You are the expert on your business and how certain legislation they support or oppose will impact your business, your community, and your life. You don't need to be a lawyer, a political science major, a historian, or have any political experience. Telling your story as an aquatics manager, a GM, or just as a constituent is what matters, and it's what they want to hear. Everyone can be an advocate. However, you do need to know what bills are being introduced, and it's very effective to understand the opposition or support around those bills. And that's where IAPA comes in. Erica does all the heavy lifting. She'll send down alerts and create talking points for issues. The IAPA team also sets up meetings so you can interact directly with your representatives. And these meetings happen annually at Advocacy Day. This past year, the meetings were done virtually, which makes advocating from your favorite seat in the living room possible. And you can just wear your dress shirt and tie and keep your shorts down below. So now you're all wondering what I'm wearing, probably. Erica, can you talk a bit about the tools you use to stay informed and to communicate with members?
Absolutely. IAPA utilizes a variety of digital advocacy tools to help engage our members in the public policy process. We track all relevant legislation and regulatory actions relating to the industry. We provide our members with contact information for state and federal elected officials. And finally, we engage our membership with targeted email campaigns so our members can directly engage with their elected officials on a variety of issues. IAPA also tracks all the nerdy things on the back end too, but the most important metric that we follow is the number of actions taken. Therefore, engaged IAPA members that help spread our advocacy message, they also end up helping attract new supporters and members, and this organically grows and strengthens our advocacy reach.
Erica, if the folks viewing this webinar want to find out more about IAPA advocacy, where can they go?
Sure. So IAPA is currently in the process of updating our website and trying to streamline some of our member services. All of our government affairs activities are currently housed on 2 separate pages, which will hopefully become one in the near future. If you go to iapaaction.org, you can find our latest advocacy alerts to take action on both state and federal legislative and regulatory initiatives, as well as find contact information for your elected officials, whether it be your local elected officials or members of Congress based on your address. And then, if you are further interested, you can just go to IAPA's North American Public Affairs page on the iapa.org website to find all of our archived government affairs newsletters and updates, links to government affairs activities, including our annual advocacy days, and other information on relevant public policy issues.
Thanks so much for that info, Erica. Before we get into the 2020 recap, I've heard you describe government affairs in a really colloquial way. Can you share that with our audience?
Sure. I think a lot of people are not familiar with government affairs, but they are in fact familiar with pop culture. And the way I like to talk about government affairs so that the general public understands is that a lot of people wish that Washington, D.C. were like the West Wing. I think a lot of people think that Washington, D.C. is like House of Cards, but in reality, Washington, D.C. is a lot like Veep.
Well, I'm a Julia Louis-Dreyfus fan, so I would agree with that assessment. That's good because we needed a little bit of laughter. There is no question that this past year was one of the most challenging years that our industry has ever faced. So, Erica, going back to January 2020, when we were all living our best lives in total bliss, unaware of what was about to unfold, some of us were fortunate enough to be in Phoenix at the Ron Reinhardt International Aquatic Safety School. What initiatives was IAPA working on?
Yeah, sure. Looking back at how we began 2020, we were celebrating quite a few legislative victories. In Mississippi, we were able to pass statewide ride safety regulation. In Michigan and Minnesota, we were able to pass legislation that allowed for 16 and 17-year-old ride operators. And this really helped our member companies fill vacant positions and safely engage a youth workforce. And with that said, one of IAPA's top policy priorities prior to COVID and during COVID, and always will be, to have strong statewide ride safety regulation in all 50 states. To date, only 4 states, which are Alabama, Montana, Nevada, and Wyoming don't have statewide ride safety regulation, and it is IAPA's mission that amusement parks and water parks are best regulated at the state level, and we support that strong statewide ride safety regulation with the adoption of ASTM F24. IAPA also created a baseline of what legislation should look like at the state level, and we share that happily with state legislators and regulators, and often use that to help states update their statutes and regulations.
That was great work in Mississippi, Michigan, and Minnesota. I'm sure the celebrations, though, were short-lived as COVID-19 hit our shores and you had to pivot your attention there. Can you talk about what the past year looked like in terms of advocacy? And for those who may not know, advocacy is a politically correct term for that dirty word lobbying. Lobbying is a necessary and useful activity to communicate how legislation and regulation will impact you, your employer, and the members of your community. So don't think of it as a slimy practice with folks in back rooms smoking cigars and making deals. I'm not saying some of that doesn't go on, but anyone who shares their concerns with policymakers is essentially lobbying. So Erica, tell us about this past year.
Yeah, so there's no doubt about it. 2020 was devastating. We're still facing uncertainty. We have a lot more work to do. But as we've seen over the past several months, we are a resilient industry. And when we are faced with significant challenges, we work together to accomplish so much. And the IAPA Government Affairs team has been really hard at work over 2020 and throughout the whole pandemic. We were able to hold over 100 virtual meetings with offices on Capitol Hill, which is, really great. It's really difficult to get a lot of Hill members to understand technology or even be able to use Zoom. So that in itself was a success, but we were able to advocate on issues such as financial aid, tax relief, immigration concerns, litigation protection, unique problems associated with our seasonal businesses, reopening struggles, and so much more. And additionally, we worked with the broader tourism community. We were able to speak with one unified voice, securing relief measures for our industry throughout the year. As you'll recall, we started the year back in March with the CARES Act. We were able to get the Paycheck Protection Program Flexibility Act in June. And we ended the year with the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. That was the year-end funding bill that provided additional business and tax relief. Working with the administration, we were also able to advocate and fight off overly restrictive visa bans that would undercut our members' ability to maximize their COVID-shortened season. Basically, working with other travel and tourism organizations and the international exchange community, IAPA was able to secure appropriation language that helped protect the summer work travel J1 visa program, a program widely used by water parks and the whole of the attractions industry. Even more so, we were able to work to help secure 2 seats on the U.S. Travel and Tourism Advisory Board. We have Will Morey, who is the CEO of Morey's Piers, and Duff Milkey, who is the Executive Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary of Cedar Fair, who now serve on this federal commission, and they are able to advise the Secretary of Commerce on very important U.S. policies that impact the travel and tourism industry. And I feel like we have a lot more, but this, most importantly, what I think we did is we worked with an epidemiologist and safety professionals from all over the world to develop and adopt industry-wide reopening guidance that aligns with the CDC. And this guidance can be found on IAPA's COVID relief resources homepage. And then using that guidance, we were able to work with state elected officials, state reopening task forces all over the country to incorporate our safety protocols and best practices to allow for the safe reopening of our industry. We were successful in most states, frankly. There unfortunately are 4 states where our industry remains shuttered, and that's California, Illinois, Massachusetts, and New York. And these are 4 states where, we continue to try and work to allow for the safe reopening of our industry.
Yeah, unfortunate for those 4 states, but certainly a lot of great work overall. And really, when I think about it, it's mind-blowing how much was accomplished in a 12-month period. That's a lot of advocacy, a lot of meetings, a lot of documents, a lot of conversations, and that, I know that list doesn't even include everything that you guys were doing. And to think all these issues were brand new. This wasn't taking out the talking points for something that we've been talking about for years. because this was starting from scratch with something we never faced. So I know for a fact the IAPA folks were working round the clock to address members' concerns, to educate congressional offices on the unique elements of our business, and to create safety and accepted reopening guidelines. By the way, on a side note, the Orlando Sentinel did a piece that examined COVID transmission in amusement parks. Did you know we did not have any widespread outbreaks as a result of visiting attractions? I found that to be really great news and hopeful news as we work to get our colleagues in those 4 states open for 2021. Some not so great news. Some of our members have not been able to qualify for federal relief programs such as the PPP program because of the number of seasonal employees that they hire. It puts them over the allowable headcount, which was 500 in the CARES bill in the spring and 300 in the December relief bill. We've been working hard to support other legislation that would provide financial aid to parks that are too large to utilize this opportunity. And to that end, we're supporting the Restart Act, which would significantly broaden the number of businesses that qualify for loans and grants. As of the end of 2020, the Restart Act has 59 senators' support. To see if your representative signed on, visit the web link on the screen. Additionally, we continue to work to educate members of Congress on the uniqueness of our businesses, with many really being small businesses when considering their limited operating calendars and their small full-time year-round headcount. We need Congress to understand the plight of the seasonal business. Additionally, we're an industry with high revenues and also high fixed operating costs. In that regards, we need to continue to work towards expanding our definition in the Small Business Administration regulations. But there's still a lot of work to be done. Erica, what do you see as we look ahead to 2021?
Yeah, thanks, Denise. I think you hit the nail on the head. There is a lot more work to be done, and IAPA is willing to take on that challenge and will work in the states and on Capitol Hill to help secure the future of the attractions industry. In the states, we plan to work with elected officials to allow for the safe reopening of our attractions facilities in all 50 states. We're going to help secure funding sources such as grant programs and loan programs. And something that we've already begun and will continue to do so is offer up our attractions facilities as potential vaccine distribution sites. And on Capitol Hill, we will continue to work with members of Congress and the Biden administration to secure additional federal business relief and to make sure that's available specifically to the attractions industry. We will work with Congress to try to pass COVID-19 liability shield for responsible businesses. And we will work with the State Department and the White House to ensure the continuity of the J-1 visa program. Denise, actually, I think you're very familiar with that J-1 program. Can you talk about the program briefly? I know there are a lot of Ellis clients who are watching this webinar right now who utilize it and might be concerned about staffing challenges in 2021.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. I would love to talk about it. I will try to keep it brief because I think I could talk about this topic for days. The J-1 Summer Work Travel Program, which, by the way, is being rebranded by the State Department to Bridge USA, is an exchange program that allows international university students to travel to the United States and work their summer break from school. Due to the surge in unemployment, the Trump administration, through an executive order, banned issuing new J-1 visas, along with several other visa types. The stated reason was they believed Americans could and would take these seasonal summer jobs. As most of you know and experience, that's simply not the case. Out of work heads of households are not interested in taking a summer job. And when you add in the $600 in additional federal unemployment supplement and the extensions, it doesn't make financial sense to take a summer job if you were unemployed from a full-time year-round career position. By banning the program, it made staffing for the season even more difficult for businesses that host J-1 students. The program was severely negatively impacted for 2020, with less than 10% of the students who participate annually able to arrive. The numbers were further decreased due to health concerns of the students and travel restrictions due to COVID-19. We were fortunate at Morey's to host a small fraction of our typical number of students this past season, and I can attest they made a huge difference in how fully we were able to staff and open with a direct and measurable revenue amount attributed to this. It was vital in helping us maximize our revenue that we could achieve under the capacity restrictions that we faced. The travel ban was challenged in court, and the good news is it was ruled to have overstretched the executive authority. So a federal judge issued an injunction, which essentially means that the groups who were part of the lawsuit and their members could begin to recruit students for the winter season, and that embassies and consulates would have to issue the visas. It was great news. It's not without some challenges, though. As the COVID numbers continued to spike, embassies and consulates around the world closed or didn't conduct in-person interviews. So that made it more difficult. But there are students that were able to get into the country on their winter programs that are working in ski resorts right now. On top of that, President Trump extended the ban until March 31st, 2021. But those represented by the plaintiffs, who are the ones that sued the Trump administration, can proceed and continue to hire. And as of the filming of this webinar, we believe that the Biden administration will end the ban prior to the March deadline and that the program will be viable for 2021. That's not to say the program isn't with its adversaries. The Bridge USA program continues to be in a delicate position, and ongoing advocacy is important and necessary. If you're interested in knowing the next threats, ask me during the Q&A and I can provide some details, or you can ask for more details on this ban. You can also listen to my podcast interview with the Wall Street Journal. It's at about the 9-minute mark, and we'll put this up on the screen. On a positive note, I can tell you there is a lot of interest from international students. They are ready and eager to come to the United States. Hopefully, travel restrictions and the vaccine distribution make that a reality. Erica, thanks for the opportunity to briefly talk about Bridge USA. I also want to mention, while the program is a federal program, it's valuable to get state support, and you have been advocating it on the state level, most recently by getting an article into the Lieutenant Governors Association's newsletter. You are really great at looking for every opportunity to spread various advocacy messages to our audience. If this issue is important to you, please consider joining our coalition to learn more info. Erica, with that, can you share with us IAPA's 2021 advocacy agenda, non-COVID related?
Absolutely. I would love nothing more than to get back to basics and talk about non-COVID related issues. IAPA will continue to represent the industry on our primary issues, which are that of ride safety, labor, and workforce development. We will continue to work to incorporate ASTM F24 standards into state ride safety regulation. We will work to increase opportunities for youth workers. We will continue to promote the J1 Summer Work Travel Program that Denise just spoke about. We will also work with the Small Business Administration to evaluate industry access to programs. We will message the unique needs of the seasonal nature of a lot of our businesses to Congress. And we will work with the Federal Aviation Administration to prohibit unauthorized drone usage from flying above our parks and attractions. And lastly, we will communicate how wage and hour changes will impact our member companies. Frankly, this list is not all encompassing. We know there's a lot more issues that are going to pop up after 2020. We are also prepared for the unexpected, and we are ready to use everyone's new most hated word, pivot, if needed, and respond to the unexpected.
My most hated phrase is new normal. I hate that one. There's nothing normal about this. I don't ever want us to think of it as normal, but pivot's also up there. We'd like to thank you all for spending time with us today. We will be here to answer your questions. We will do our best to share what we know on any of the topics discussed today or anything else advocacy related. Please consider getting involved. As we've said, the best advocacy comes from you, the constituents, not from an association sharing their members' stories. We need you to tell your story, as only you can. You don't need to be an executive with your organization, but what you do need is to have passion and care about your business, and IAPA will do the rest. Thank you for your consideration. We hope this was helpful. For those who are watching now, we will take questions. For those who are watching on demand, we will give you our information to reach out afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise and Erica. That was a lot of great information. As a reminder to everybody, type your questions into the chat, and we'll have a live Q&A with all presenters after this session at the end of this next presenter. Prior to our live Q&A, I would like to now welcome Mr. John Hallenbach, Vice President and Executive Director, IAPA North America. John has 28 plus years of themed entertainment experience, including planning, development, construction, project management, and operations of themed entertainment destinations. John started his career at Universal Studios in Florida, was on the opening teams for Universal Parks in Orlando, Osaka, Japan, and Singapore. He was named the SVP of Attractions at the Resorts World Sentosa Integrated Resort in Singapore. John's international experience continued with senior roles at Dubai Parks and Resorts before returning to the U.S. to join Hersey Entertainment Resorts in a managing director role. John is currently the Vice President and Executive Director of IAPA North America.
Hi, my name is John Hollenbeck, Vice President and Executive Director for IAPA North America, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the benefits of being an IAPA member. IAPA membership is around 6,000 people across the world, and that's broken up into 4 different regions. In the North America region, which is the United States and Canada, which I take care of, we comprise about 57% of all of our IAPA members around the world. We have the European, Middle East, and Africa market. That's about 25% of our members. Asia Pacific makes up about 11% of our members, and our Latin America region takes up about 7%. So we are a global association of our 6,000 members. We have various facility types that are also part of IAPA, from family entertainment centers, which really is the largest segment at 44%. Theme parks take up about 22% of our membership. Water parks in the 8% range. General attractions, which would be maybe a museum or a roadside type attraction, are 14%. Zoos and aquariums are 7% of our membership, and then other, which would be attractions like maybe some new aerial adventure courses or things like that, take about 5% of our membership. So not only are we global, we also are very diverse in the constituencies that we have. The IAPA brand really is made up of various pillars of IAPA, and really our essence of our brand is to bring together a diverse and dynamic attractions community that moves forward together. And we have a new logo as of 2 years ago, and that logo really, if you see on the IAPA brand slide, shows a lot of different things. There's a pinwheel that has colors on it. The pinwheel has a motion to it, so it shows that we're moving and ever changing. The various colors just really represent one of the pillars that I'll talk about in a second. And then even the letters in IAPA are connected, which shows that there's a connection in the industry. So a lot of thought went into the brand and into the IAPA logo, and there was a lot of thought. We had a committee of members that got together and really put that together. So we're very proud of everything that we're doing and show that we really do have a lot of different benefits as far as members for IAPA. This slide shows basically the 5 pillars of IAPA, and you'll see those in the colored boxes. We have our expos. Most people are aware of the IAPA expos and attend those. We have 3 around the world I'll talk about a little bit later. News and public affairs is another one of our pillars. Connections, bringing people together, is very important, and that's another one. Public affairs, dealing with advocacy as well as safety and security issues, is something that's super important. And education. We always can continue to learn and grow in the industry, and that's very important as well. So I'll touch a little bit on each one of those 5 pillars. As far as connections, there are many ways that we connect our members. One is through committee or subcommittee involvement, and really those involve a lot of our various constituencies, whether it be food and beverage, whether it be amusement parks, water parks, facilities, entertainment centers, a lot of things. We bring people together. We have constituency for safety and security. We have committees for those. And all of those are manned by our members. So they are completely volunteer. We take our committee structure and we bring the members in, and they talk about issues and needs in the industry. And then we take those and put together our work plan so that we can assist the industry and assist our members. We do, outside of expos, have a lot of conferences, a lot of events, a lot of connection ability to bring people together. We hold various educational events that I'll talk a little bit more about in the education session, as well as networking events. Of course, we're a fun industry, so we like to have fun as well. So we like to get people together. We also have, as part of a connection, we have on our website, iapa.org, We have a member directory where people can look up contacts and see if they have a question or a thought. They can get a hold of people that are members of that constituency or have maybe some expertise in that area to get their questions answered. So we can use that member directory to be able to connect people. Some of our big events that we do would be like our FEC Summit. That happened at the beginning of 2020 before all of this COVID craziness. So we actually were able to have this event in 2020. It was at Stone Mountain in Georgia. And we bring people from the Family Entertainment Center together to be able to share experiences, share thoughts, have some education, and have some networking and fun as well. So that's an event that we do every year. Unfortunately, due to COVID in 2021, we weren't able to have that, but we're looking to reschedule some FEC programming later in the year. Moving to the pillar of education, obviously this is a big one for us at IAPA. We do a lot of different things with face-to-face and online learning. That's very important now with our social distancing responsibilities and not being able to travel and get together as much. There are a lot of education programs that we do online or digitally now, which really helps to bring people together even though we may not be able to see each other in person. We have webinars. There'll be a slide that'll be coming up shortly that'll just kind of give you an idea of upcoming webinars. We do those on a monthly basis. And those are not just in my region in North America, but those are all around the globe. So we have the ability to communicate and educate people through webinars throughout the year. We also have a certification program, which is very valuable for our members to be able to show that they did some events, they went through some training, they have experience and knowledge in the industry, and then we provide either a attractions manager, professional, or an executive program where you can actually be certified to show that you are an industry expert. It's a very good program. I'm a certified attractions executive, and I'm very proud of that. And I think it's one way that we can give back a little bit to the members to be able to give them an opportunity to show that they are experts in the field. As I said, we do a lot of training. We have now added some online training that we had been doing in person. Our Institute for Attractions Manager is one program, as well as a Safety Institute that we have. And that really covers all topics of safety and security within the attractions industry, including water parks, theme parks, family entertainment centers. So there's a lot of things that we do in terms of education to bring benefit to our members. A lot of ways, on the next slide, you'll see there's a lot of ways that we have engagement opportunities with IAPA. There's a lot of things you can do. We have a lot of communication and publications, either digitally or actually in print, that you could submit stories for. You can be a presenter on one of our IAPA webinars or on industry topics that you may know. You can join one of those committees or subcommittees I talked about. You can submit a presentation for our IAPA Expo. One part of our IAPA Expo is the education program. And I believe a year ago, we had about 130 different programs that we needed speakers for. So you could submit a presentation and come and speak at one of our expos, as well as be a presenter in maybe one of our Industry for Attraction Manager or Safety Institutes that I was just talking about. Those are all done by our member volunteers, and it's really a good way to connect with people in the industry and be able to network with them. The next slide shows just some upcoming webinars, just to give you an idea on a monthly basis of what we may be doing. There's more information on the bottom of that slide where you can go to our website to be able to see. And really anything I'm talking about today, you can go to the IAPA.org website and put in a search and be able to find more information on any of the topics. The next slide just shows a logo from the certification process. I mentioned that earlier. It really is a good way. You can put the ICAE on your business card if you want. So it's a good way to be able to show the world that you're an industry expert. On the next slide, you'll see our IAPA news. There are a lot of publications in the communications I mentioned, as well as industry reports and other things that we put out. And I wanted to talk a little bit about those because they're easier available right now for you if you're working from home or not able to get to the office. You can go online. We revamped our website about 1.5 years ago. So there's a lot of great resources. This is just a screenshot of kind of the beginning of the new website, but now we have a lot of COVID resources that you can go, and depending on what your region is, you can find out more information about COVID. We put together a reopening guideline that gives people a framework of what to do when they're reopening as far as operations and taking care of their businesses. That's available as well in that section. So a lot of things you can find on our website. We also put out a daily IAPA News Daily, which is an aggregate of all the industry news that's around the world. It comes together and sends an email to you regularly. For most of the year, it's every day. For a few parts of the year, it's maybe a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But it really gives you a quick snapshot of what's going on in the industry. And as an IAPA member, you can get that email to you when it comes out to be able to start your day with your cup of coffee to kind of see what's going on in the industry. We have some other communications you'll see on this next slide. Our Fun World magazine is a magazine that both comes out in print and digitally. It talks a lot about, does interviews with, and has a lot of information concerning all of our members, whether they be facilities, manufacturer suppliers, students. It talks about some of our committee members. And then us, here at IAPA, we have the opportunity to be able to communicate with you as well. So it's a fun magazine to look at, and gives you a lot of industry news and a lot of things that you can use to make yourself better as you're moving forward in the industry. We also have an IAPA Fun Extra. That's a bi-monthly digital publication that comes out for our facility entertainment centers, our family entertainment centers. And that just gives you some tips and ideas and is geared, to those FECs to be able to, have some more resources for our FEC community. On the next slide, you'll see public affairs. This has been something that's been very important for us. And a little bit later today, you'll hear from Erica Sheffer and Denise Bexon, who will be talking about advocacy and government affairs and some other things. I'll let them expound on that a little more, but we do a lot with safety standards globally, and also a lot with doing government relations and advocacy work. A lot of things have been happening due to COVID, whether it be trying to get states or locations to reopen, to have some guidelines, to give some industry data as to kind of the state of where we are with places not being able to open or having businesses be impacted. Unfortunately, some fallout of this is there's been some people that aren't working where they used to be before. So we're doing everything we can to look at these issues and get to our government officials, especially in the U.S. We also have a group where we talk about issues in Canada to really come and bring those issues to Capitol Hill in the U.S. and to Parliament in Canada, and to make sure that people understand that there are needs in our industry, and we will continue to fight for those. On the next slide, you see a ride safety reporting. The little graphic there is just a cover of the report. We get information from our facilities all year, and then we take that information, and it's confidential for them to send it to us, but we compile it together, and we just really show the state of the industry in terms of safety, number of incidents, how we stack up against other businesses, and really how safe the attractions industry is. Put that in a report that our members can use if they're going to try to get some kind of a building permit, or if they're looking to try to expand their business and they want to get into a new piece of business, just to show that the safety is there. So we put that out each year in each of our regions. The next slide shows a little bit about crisis communications. That's another benefit that IAPA provides. We have a member support number. Again, you can go on the IAPA.org website to see that. And if you're involved in a business, or you have an issue, or maybe your crisis communication plan at your place of work isn't as great as you would like it to be, we can help with some of those resources. We have a quick guide on the website that's kind of a summary of information that you should keep in mind when creating a crisis template. And in the world of global pandemics, it's really good to have that available to be able to make your business better. On the advocacy side of things, we also aren't just doing things due to COVID. We also look at other things that are industry related, whether they be regulating menus in F&B environments, or looking at minimum wage, or J1 summer work program, or minimum scheduling, etc. There are a lot of things that we do on the advocacy side of things that we work on, including each year we typically would go to Washington, D.C. and actually meet face-to-face with our legislators. It's been a little more difficult, obviously, with COVID, as Capitol Hill is pretty much not accessible to anyone due to the pandemic. But as that loosens up and we're able to get our members face-to-face with our folks on Capitol Hill, we'll start those programs back up again. It's called Advocacy Days. It's been very popular and a good way for us to get our industry issues out to our government officials. The next slide shows a couple of graphics and talking about a facility excellence self-assessment. This is really just a tool where you can go and look at your facility, your workplace, and it has a checklist of things. Do I have a good safety program? Do I have fire extinguishers here? Do I have ADDs in these locations? Do I have a good evacuation plan? Kind of goes through a checklist, and then if on any of those checklist items you would say, ooh, no, I don't have that, it could give you some resources where you can look at and get to a point where you can look those up and add those into your own facility plans or standard operating procedures. So it's really just a self-assessment for you to look at, make sure that you're doing the best in your business, helps to provide a more safe environment, a more enjoyable environment, and a better experience for your guests that are coming to your businesses. Finally, I'll just talk quickly about our expos. Most people know IAPA for our expos. We do 3 every year. One is in Asia, one in Europe, and one here in Orlando, where I'm located. Those are great ways for people to get together. We have our manufacturer and suppliers showing products and services. So obviously our owner-operators come and look for new ideas or new products or new rides that they can purchase. As well as a very robust education program, again, to be able to take all facets of the industry and really educate and help people out. We do quite a few events during those times, quite a few receptions. So a lot of things happen at our expos, and it's a good way to get people together. The sad thing with COVID in 2020 is we were not able to do any of our 3 expos last year. So we're really looking forward to getting everybody back together again in 2021. We'll be giving more information on that, and you can look on the IAPA.org website just to stay in tune with what's happening with those. So that's really a brief explanation about what IAPA has to offer you. I know some of you that are attending these sessions have employers that you work for. If your employer is an IAPA member, then you are an IAPA member too. So please take a minute to look at the IAPA.org website, look through it. If you have any questions, the IAPA North America team, we're on that website, and we'll always be happy to get a phone call or an email if you have a question, and we'd be happy to take care of those. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of insight. I really hope you have a good seminar for the rest of the days, and I appreciate all the time that you've given me. Have a good day.
Welcome back and good afternoon, everybody. Erica, Denise, and John, thank you for all that great information today. I've had the opportunity to be involved with IAPA for the last decade or so, actually I should say longer, doing some international speaking with the safety institutes and being on many committees, and also being on the board recently. And I would certainly encourage everybody to get involved, whether it's whatever association, whether it is IAPA or WWA or another. And John, in general, you gave us a lot of good information. Just tell us in general what opportunities are available for individuals to become involved at IAPA on a committee level or other.
Well, I think, the first and foremost to me would be networking and getting to know peers within the industry. You and I, Rack, go back a long ways where, we've done some safety institutes in the past in Southeast Asia when I was working at Universal Studios Singapore. So it really is a good way to make connections, And really all the benefits are geared towards helping people understand the industry a little better and really interact with each other to make the industry better overall. I did mention in there a few webinars that we did have going on. We do have a few extras. There's some new ones that are on the docket, so I wanted to just introduce those to folks. If you're interested and you are an IAPA member, this is an IAPA member only webinar. It's actually tomorrow from 1 to 2, and it talks about our fixed ride safety survey. I mentioned that briefly in the presentation, and we're actually talking about that a little bit if anybody's interested in that. And then coming up, an important one on February 18th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. If anybody that's watching has any involvement in summer work travel or the J1 visa program, we'll be talking about that and what to expect for the program coming up this season. I think some of the other things are just, trying to help people get ready in the midst of all this pandemic, and that there are quite a few businesses that never did get to reopen in 2020. So we're working hard on the reopening guidance that we've had out for almost a year now, and really trying to push that again to let people understand that if they didn't have that opportunity but are now getting ready to open in 2021, they can lean on that document and be able to help them create their plan to give to the necessary authorities to be able to get up and running for 21. So it really is about just talking with each other, communicating with each other, and helping each other grow in the attractions industry. And that really is what IAPA is all about.
Yeah, and you're right, John. The plan right now is important, especially for those of you who did not get a chance to opening. The reopening plan that IAPA's put together, I believe, is the 3rd edition right now, John. And can you tell us, is there more conversations going on? I know there are always conversations going on. Are there any elements that you foresee changing in the reopening guidance as we move forward the next few months?
Yeah, there have been 3 editions of it, but it is a really fluid document, and there's always some refinement that's there. There's been some certain elements we've been talking about, like temperature checks at your front gate. Is it really a necessity? Is it really important? Does it really show anything to, businesses? So we'll continue to look at things like that. And now with vaccines coming, there's also discussions about, what the impact of that is on your guests at your front gate. There's some discussion about potential health passes or digital passes that we might have to have be a part of our operations. So continuing to look at those as the pandemic evolves, and then hopefully is gone, so that we can kind of get back to some sort of normal, and it will just help people with that getting started. There's also some sections in there about, and we are talking more about, maybe you didn't open in 20 at all, so if you need to do inspections or ride maintenance or certain things, getting back into the mindset of that, because it's been a while for some people. So make sure that we're talking about that as well. But we'll continue to look at this document as kind of a living document that just really is a guideline to help people along and let them create their own plans that are customizable for their own facilities.
Yeah, it's an extremely helpful document, and thanks for the update on that, John. And yeah, we're all looking forward to hopefully being able to be in Shanghai, Barcelona, and Orlando this year. If we can get all 3 of those expos back, that would be fantastic. Yeah,
we're looking forward to that too, for sure.
Yes, and John, the certification program is great as well. I also am a attraction executive, and us in this industry don't get a lot of opportunity to show our designations, and this is one that certainly helps us raise our professionalism in the industry. So thank you.
Yeah, I would just say, to end everything kind of on the benefits side, is there was a slide in there that talked about contacting us anytime. If you go to the IAPA.org website, the entire North America team is there, emails, phone numbers, etc. If you have a question or a comment and you're interested in getting some information, just give us a shout. We'd be more than happy to help.
Thanks, John. Thank you very much. Well, Denise and Erica, I think we could probably talk for an hour and a half on questions about advocacy and J1 and everything that has been going on since last year and still is going on right now. In general, Erica, we talk about advocacy days. I've had the chance to be there too, and it is extremely powerful and benefit to understanding how the process works. Do you have any advice for the people who might not be able to make it to advocacy days, but really want to try to make an impact in their local or regional area?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I would really encourage everyone to do would be to sign up at iapaaction.org to become an attractions advocate. When you sign up using your name and your mailing address, anytime IAPA has communications that's going out to Congress or whether it's local in your state, you will receive that automatically with our list of asks. It is always editable, so you can edit it to have your own specific message in there. And all you need to do is type in your name and address, and that is sent to your members of Congress or to your governor or your state elected official. That's the easiest way to get involved.
And it really is easy. It's a click and it's play, and it goes directly to your representative. I've actually done that a few times. I've gotten great now communication, at least from keeping updated with newsletters from what's going on with our local legislators. So that's been fantastic and a good plan that IAPA has. With everything that's going on here, and we have some questions about strategies and things like that. And one of the questions was, does lobbying approach change when the barriers are more of a local level in the cities and counties as opposed to federal and state level?
Absolutely. I actually prefer working at the state and local level because I feel like it's much more relational. It's a little more gritty and personal. A lot of times these people on a personal level, they're your neighbors, they're your friends. I think it's much more easier to get involved at the state and local level because it seems much more tangible. But that work that you're doing is so important at the federal level too. What Rack was just saying about filling out, your name and becoming an attractions advocate. The systems that we use to process that information and send to Capitol Hill, we have these all really cool back end things that your letters are actually getting through to Capitol Hill. Like they're not just getting filtered through and it's not coming in as bulk mail. So it's looking like it's in one individual communication per person. So a lot of times you will get a response from Capitol Hill, but I do think there are a lot more barriers working at the federal level, especially right now with Washington, D.C. being physically closed. No one is allowed in the Capitol building right now. So everything's being done virtually. So that's sort of been challenging, but we don't really have those barriers at the state and local level right now, at least in the majority of states. And unfortunately, if you live in, California or New York, you have those barriers.
Yes, it's really been quite a challenge. And Erica, with the relief bills that are coming in there, could you just maybe give a little bit of a general update on some of the challenges that the organizations as part of the amusement industry have had qualifying for not only the original stimulus bill, but certainly the second round now?
Yeah, a lot of our members have been able to qualify for some form of program or another. We continue to work on Capitol Hill to access grants and long-term low-interest loans. We would love to build upon the success of the PPP and do a third draw. Something that has negatively impacted a lot of our small businesses in terms of PPP draw is in terms of eligibility. PPP 1, you were able to have 500 or less employees to qualify for PPP. In the second draw, it was limited to 300, and we are hoping to not only bring that number back up to 500, but to make some clerical errors fixed that allow for eligibility requirements to only be capped at full-time equivalent employees, so that we're not, counting our seasonal employees, our J1s, or our temporary employees that really take us out of the bubble for eligibility.
Yeah, I know it was a lot of a challenge. And I'll even, as Denise, if I can ask you maybe to specifically address that as being one of those clients that we're aware of that was not able to take advantage of that stimulus that was available because of some of those specific aspects of the business.
Yeah, well, we actually, we did qualify for the first PPP draw because we were able to, in a subsequent guidance, probably after I spoke to you, they had said that you don't have to count your J1s in head count, but there's certainly plenty of businesses that I'm aware of that because of their seasonal head count don't qualify. And it's something as simple as, if you have a community program that people can work 8 shifts and get a season pass, that person counts as a person, even though maybe they work 6 or 8 shifts, or somebody came in, for a weekend of training and you never saw them again, but they're on your books, they count as a person. So we've really been working hard to try to educate Congress on that and to really look at different ways to measure it, whether it's a total hours like with healthcare, or to just be more open-minded than a straight fixed head count, which tends to be an SBA, a seasonal small business administration format. But yeah, it's really devastating when you have, parks and water parks and attractions that are small, that maybe carry 100 full-time people, and they're not able to access these funds because of what their staff looks like in July.
Yeah, we really hope that's going to get some more encouragement here with the second round with everybody. Denise, looking into 2021, and you had the ability to open with a limited basis this past year, and you're one of the big users of the J1 program that we talked about. What kind of advice can you give somebody who may or may not have opened last year, may or may not have gotten any J1s, but certainly is hoping to count on some J1s this year, or maybe not? What can you tell us to maybe be hopeful for?
Sure. Well, the first thing I can tell you is to sign up for IAPA's webinar on the 18th related to J1s, because they're going to do a really good forecast for what we can expect this season. But we do think, in a nutshell, that we will have more students than in 2020, probably not as many as 2019. So it'll be somewhere in between. I can't, at this point, put a finger on it. There's a lot of pent up demand overseas. So we are seeing there's interest. The barriers are going to be travel. What airports are restricted. There's airport restrictions and region restrictions right now. Testing, there's a requirement right now that you get a test 3 days before you fly. So what does that look like in the various countries, and potentially quarantining once here. So I would tell anybody that uses the J1 program to work with their sponsor to determine how to best meet those needs. But some of the things you're going to need to think about: if students are required to quarantine before they start working, where are you putting them? How are you separating people out from maybe your general housing population? How are you going to make sure their basic needs are met? How are they getting food? What are they doing for this period of time when they have to quarantine? So we'll have to consider the arrival process. And then you'll also have to consider, their health and well-being, and what happens if someone contracts, coronavirus. We had 90 students last year. We were really fortunate. We were even more fortunate that no one got coronavirus. But these are things that we had to think about. If someone maybe thinks they have it, you have to have not quarantine, but isolation, because before you know if they have it or not, they can't be mixing with people that have it, and they can't be mixing with people don't have it. So there's all these different steps to consider their well-being, and to ensure that if you have a case, you minimize the opportunity for spread. So lots of varying and new issues, like with everything else we're doing, that with the J1 program.
Yes, lots of challenges. However, quite a big part of our industry, and I certainly hope that we can accomplish all those things and get those J1 workers back in our groups and get our culture of safety back up. And that's great. Well, guys, thanks very much for your time today and your information on IAPA and what's going on today in the legislative realm, as well as J1. It's been very insightful today. And for those of you who've been with us all day, thank you for being with us today. This is going to be our last session for the day. I want to thank John Allenbach and Erica Sheffer and Denise Bexon for participating in our session today.